You ever watch someone snatch hope right out of kids' hands and think, no way that just happened? I'm telling you, that's exactly what went down at 35,000 feet, somewhere over Nebraska, when a flight attendant grabbed a tiny vial from a 7-year-old, dropped it in the trash like it was nothing, and the hiss of that compactor felt like a death sentence. The father, David, he tried to keep it together, voice barely steady, but you could see he was hanging by a thread. That's my son's medication. He needs it in 15 minutes. And the flight attendant, Susan Reynolds, that's the name, she stared him down, hard as nails. Not allowed on this plane. That was it. No room for heart, just rules, and right there, you could feel the whole cabin holding its breath. Leo, the kid, started sobbing soft at first, then sharper, each breath a desperate gasp, and it cut through that heavy airplane silence. I watched David's face fall, all the fight draining out, and then, somehow, sharpening at the same time, like a man realizing the only thing left to do is throw himself against the wall until something gives. "You put my son's life at risk," he said, quiet, but it hit everyone in the cabin. You could see people sit up straighter, look at each other, unsure what to do. It wasn't just about some rule, any more life or death, right here, right now, miles above the world. You know what's wild? How fast things spin out of control. Susan walked back to the galley, all business, but I caught her hesitating by the trash, staring into it like she could undo what she'd just done. But nothing happens. No epali. Just the thrum of engines and Leo's breathing, ragged and wrong. A girl across the aisle, Chloe, couldn't have been more than 22, started filming her phone tucked behind the seat. Maybe she thought she'd catch something viral, or maybe she just couldn't believe what she saw. David got down on one knee next to his son, whispered, "I'm here, Leo. I promise." The boy pressed in close, hands clutching his sleeve, like he was the only thing anchoring him to this world. I glanced around. An older couple was talking in low voices. "Did you see that?" he said, and she nodded, lips tight. Nobody wanted to be the one to stand up, but everyone was watching. Finally, David took a breath, stood tall, and called out, "I need to speak to the purser now." The ripple that ran through the cabin was real passengers shifting, tension winding up tight. Michael Chan, the purser, showed up, trying to look calm. "Is there a problem, sir?" David didn't yell. He just laid it out. "She threw away my son's only medication. He needs it. Please, you have to help." Susan jumped in, voice sharp. "It was unlabeled, sir. We have rules." Michael's eyes flickered between them, trying to calculate if this was above his pay grade. "Do you have any documentation?" he asked. David nodded, rummaged through his bag, pulling out a thick wad of paperwork. "Everything you need, letters from the doctor, details about his trial." But Susan shook her head, arms crossed. "It's gone. Procedure. And man, you could almost see something snap inside David. "My son will die because of your procedure." Leo's breathing got faster. Little tremors started in his arms. David's eyes pleaded he knew these signs too well. That when Michael picked up the intercom. "Is there a doctor on board? We have a medical emergency in row 22. The whole plane froze. Then, a woman 3 rows up DR. Rossi, a pediatric neurologist, thank God, stood up and hustled over. "What's his diagnosis?" "Dravet syndrome. His only dose is gone." DR. Rossi looked at Susan like she wanted to slap her, then told Michael, "We need to land. Now." The captain's voice came over the PA, calm but urgent. "We have a medical emergency. Please remain seated." Susan looked pale now, for the first time really rattled. The plane banked hard, and people clutched armrests. Someone in 12C started praying. Someone else just sobbed. David knelt next to Leo, running a hand through his hair, whispering, "Stay with me. Buddy, you're stronger than any of them know." DR. Rossi checked Leo's pulse, her face tight. "We need an ambulance waiting on the ground." Outside, the sky was blue and calm, but inside, everything felt like it was holding its breath. In the galley, Susan was just frozen. You could see her wrestling with the rules, her job, memories of her brother, everything tangled up and crashing down. The captain announced they'd be landing in Chicago. Panic and hope mixed in the air like static. When the doors opened, paramedics rushed in. David followed as they loaded Leo onto a stretcher, promising, "I'll be right behind you." He passed Susan in the galley, and the look they shared pure, wordless heartbreak. But David's eyes said it all. Unbroken, grieving, fierce. News spreads fast by the time Leo hit the hospital. Chloe's video was everywhere, blowing up online. David paced the halls, waiting while doctors worked on his son. The machines beeped warnings, time stretched and warped. Rossi stood nearby, steady in the chaos. Desperate, David called the research center. "He needs the VX7 dose. Please, is there anything you can do?" An hour later, a courier burst in with the medication. They administered it. Leo's fingers twitched, his cheeks regained color, and David just collapsed into a chair, relief and exhaustion crashing over him all at once. A woman in a sharp suit found David. "I'm Elena, from Vidian Pharmaceuticals. We heard what happened. We'll handle everything. Focus on your son." For the first time, David let hope Indiana. Maybe finally someone was listening. Meanwhile, back at the airport, Susan faced the Falutin airline manager, and a lawyer grilled her in a windowless room. "You ignored a medical emergency. You violated protocol. You endangered a child's life." She tried to defend herself. "I just followed the rules." But the verdict was swift, suspended. Everything she'd built, crumbling in a moment. And outside, the internet was going wild. Millions watched the video, outrage pouring in. Messages calling for justice, for change. In the hospital, David sat by Leo's bed. He watched his son sleep, chest rising slow and steady. Through grief and anger, a new resolve grew. A nurse told him, "He's a strong boy." David nodded. "He's the strongest person I know." When Leo finally woke, his first words were, "Are we okay, Dad?" David squeezed his hand. "Yeah, we're okay. You did great." For the first time, David let himself cry, not from fear but from relief. But for Susan, things just got darker. News outlets ran her name beside words like negligence and racism. Her inbox exploded first with hate, then with silence. The airline apologized. Vidian Pharmaceuticals launched a lawsuit. Justice was coming, and the whole world watched as Susan's life unraveled. David, though, decided Leo's fight would mean something. He founded the Leo Project, helping families facing medical injustice. He spoke at hospitals, schools, on the news not for pity, but for change. One day, a letter arrived. "Thank you. Because of you, my son got the help he needed." David kept it in his wallet, a reminder why the fight mattered. Leo healed, laughter echoing through their home again. David taught him, "You're more than what happened to you, more than anyone's prejudice." Susan lost almost everything: her job, her savings, even her sense of self. A year later, she was working nights at a convenience store. One evening, the co-pilot from Flight 417 walked in. They locked eyes, a long, silent moment. She rang up his purchase, voice barely there. "Have a good night." He hesitated, then left. She stared out the window, finally understanding what her choices had cost. David and Leo moved forward, lives rebuilt from the rubble. For Susan, justice came slow and absolute. For David and Leo, it was about building a world where this never happened again. And for everyone watching, Flight 417 became more than a headline. It was a warning. Stand up, no matter the cost. What comes next? Well, nobody escapes accountability forever. The scars remain, but so do the lessons. Every time David sees Leo laugh at the kitchen table, it's not just survival, it's victory, quiet and real. The world tried to break them, but it only showed their strength. And Susan? She's got to live with it every day. Maybe one day, she'll find a way to change. That story, this whole wild, painful, hopeful messy's proof. Standing up matters, even when nobody else will. David's courage, Leo's resilience, Susan's downfall, all of it echoes beyond that plane. Sometimes the smallest voices spark the greatest change. If this story moved you, don't just scroll by. Share your thoughts. Was justice served? What would you have done? Like, comment, and subscribe. Because every view, every voice makes us stronger together.